Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. So before we get started, I do have a Kickstarter for my comic By Visibility, a bisexual anthology. It has over 16 stories, and it ranges from creators like Lisa Sturl, Chris Sheehan, myself, so definitely go check it out if you like all different types of genres in your stories, like vampires, superheroes, and sci-fi. Now, of course, in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week, because at the end of the video, we do the viewer's pick of the week, so that's for a chance to get your comment highlighted on the episode. Now, let's jump into this week's book. I had a pretty average size haul this week with 11 books, and number 11 for me, sadly, was The Amazing Spider-Man issue 5. This run has been kind of slowing down. It's only 5 issues so far, and it's already slowing down. I feel like we're definitely spinning its wheels here, where we get to see, okay, maybe Spider-Man might team up with Tombstone, and he's still trying to get his life back on track. You get a very small scene between him and Black Cat, and right when you feel like something's gonna happen, nothing actually progresses, and it's all teasing. And I'm not a particular fan of John Romita Jr.'s artwork, so that's something that also brings the rating down a bit. So overall, giving that 2 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, a new book I tried by Ed Brisson, and that is There's Something Wrong with Patrick Todd. And, you know, I always like trying out some new indie titles, and this one seemed interesting. The artwork looked really good. It kind of had this cartoony vibe to it, but still feeling grounded. And overall, I just couldn't get into the characters for this one. I thought it was going to be more of a anti-hero teen book, superhero book, and you kind of get a vibe of that, but I didn't really get into the character's head as much as I wanted to, even though I think the artwork does really shine in this one. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, this one kind of went down the ranks. I really liked issue 1, but that is Jane Foster in The Mighty Thor, issue 2. This one, I was expecting a little bit more between Jane and Odin, they're back and forth, but the things I did enjoy is, of course, Jane's connection to death, and then seeing Thor's connection to death as she's trying to find Odin's son. And I enjoyed that journey, but it is very much a point A to point B. I do like the balancing between her story and Runa as well. I thought that is a little bit more seamless in this volume than we've seen in previous volumes, but the artwork is just kind of very plain for me, which also kind of brought this one down a bit for something that didn't really move that much. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, another book I usually really like, but just kind of was spinning its wheels, and that is Firepower, issue 22, I believe we're up to. And with this issue, we just get to see the family once again getting prepared to go on battle, and Owen having to tell his kids, hey, I know you have fire powers, but we don't want you right now. I'm going to try dealing with this by myself. And of course, we know this is not going to be the final battle. Something bad's going to happen in the next arc, and they're kind of building into that. But there's not much that happens in this particular issue. And for something that was a little slower, I was expecting a bit more character beats. We just get a lot of the same character beats between Owen and his wife and Owen and the family. So I kind of wish there was something new in this one, but I thought this was a forgettable issue, even though there was some good artwork. There wasn't even a ton of action in this one. It was really only the end cap where we get some action, and I guess some of the beginning. But yeah, it just wasn't as well balanced of an issue as normal. So giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, finally, we're at the finale of The Joker, and that's Joker issue 15, and man, what a letdown, honestly. We get this whole build-up of, okay, this is going to be different, Jim Gordon's going to kill the Joker, and that's the story. And honestly, the first, 5 issues, you really got into it. You really questioned, was Jim going to kill the Joker? And then you get some even more depth where we get to see Jim and Barbara work together, and then finally kind of knowing the truth about each other, or at least Jim knowing the truth about Barbara, and that was really interesting. And then you brought the Court of Owls in, and then you got Jim's son in, and there's so many interesting stuff that just kind of fall apart by the end, and it's Jim saying, well, I didn't kill him. And it's a story told from the future. So you're not even actually seeing it. You're just saying, well, I guess it didn't happen. And I just thought that it was just such a simmer for such a good build-up where the middle kind of let go a lot, and then by the end you're like, oh, okay, so what was the point of this volume? And also the artwork is not particularly for me. I mean, it's very haunting and that fits, but I just don't love the art style for this one either. So overall, giving that 2.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6. Now, this is a big book from this week, and that is Dark Crisis, issue 2. And, I love the art for this. I love the artwork for this book. It's the same artist who was the substitute artist in Suicide Squad. So it has a very similar style to Bruno Rodolfo, who does Nightwing. And it's just so intense, and it's just wonderful action in this issue. But then the story, my biggest problem with this event is that it's connected to nothing. It's this big, life-changing, universe-crashing event, and, Nightwing, he's not doing this, and in Superman's book, he's not doing the stuff in Dark Crisis. There's a such thing as too many tie-ins, and there's a such thing as no tie-in, and that leans into this, where it's like, does this even matter? Is it actually going to affect any storyline? And that's kind of what really got me in this issue, where it's like, oh, Beast Boy's dead. But I was like, is he really dead? Does it matter? I want a little weight in my story. I know that's a lot to ask in comics sometimes, but I think there's a balancing act to do here, and I don't think that this book's doing it. So overall, I gave it 3 stars. I think there's some good moments here. I like Nightwing and John teaming up together. I enjoy seeing all the Green Lanterns in the end. And the artwork, again, is drop dead gorgeous for this book, but there's just something that's preventing me from really enjoying it. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty, issue 2. I never knew I'd enjoy a Captain America book, but I enjoy this one. I think it really does a good job, and not just making it about Steve. It's really about the whole entire family of the Captain America heroes, where in the end we get to see, well, the whole story is building up to what does this shield represent in the shield's symbol being stolen. So we get to see Steve dealing with that on his own as he's trying to balance his normal life as just Steve Rogers, not just as Captain America. And then there's the ending with Bucky meeting up with Peggy, and Peggy might be involved with these people. So there's just a really interesting drama being built up here, and a very interesting concept that I feel like that hasn't been tackled, or maybe I haven't read enough Captain America books to know that it's been tackled. But also the artwork's so good for this one too. There's definitely times where maybe some of the dialogue's a little bit too heavy, and I think the middle kind of slowed down a little bit, but I thought the beginning, where we just get to see Steve being Steve, and then of course the ending really picks up for this issue. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, this picked up a little bit from last time, and that is Poison Ivy issue 2. In this issue, I still don't know where the plot's going, honestly, and I don't necessarily know if we need a Poison Ivy book. And I'm not saying that the character doesn't deserve a book, but this plot is not really showing me that there's much to say. But I enjoy her voice a lot here. I liked her commentary about being a vegetarian. I enjoyed her commentary about life overall. And I thought that really drove this issue very well. And I think the artwork is pretty well done for this as well. It definitely fits a Poison Ivy book. So overall, I enjoyed it. Again, I don't know where the plot's going, but I like her as a character, and I liked her voice, and I like Wilson's voice for this book. So overall, giving that 3 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 21. And I thought this one was a little bit more cohesive than previous issues, where we get to see it's mostly in Kimberly's point of view, where she is talking to Trini, which has definitely been a long time since we had that, where she just has a conversation with her friend, because they're both in different books and different points in their life. So I like just the mall trip. I thought it was really fun. But then her realizing there's other Rangers. What makes us better than them? Are we just going to fade? And we get to see her want to become more powerful, and actually get to see that come out in fruition. I do wish that there are some moments where the dialogue's a little punchier, and I do wish that the coloring was a little brighter, and because it does feel a little muddy, the visuals. But overall, I thought this was a more coherent story, and it definitely gets me excited to see where the Rangers are going. I think there's good setup here, and also there's definitely little glimpses of like, okay, where the Rangers end up in the show. Are they gonna go down that path in the comics? Because you get to see some gym scenes with Kim, and obviously we know what happened when the 3 Rangers left. We're seeing that story unfold now. So overall, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Batman issue 125. So this is the new Batman era, and man, oh man, what a great start. You know, we have the same artist who worked on the Tinian run, Jorge Jimenez, and the artwork is just stunning. It just feels like a movie, and it just works for this book. It's gritty, but still has a brightness to it that where it's not too muddy. And in this issue, there's just so much thematically that happens where you're like, whoa, this feels like a new chapter, and there's just so much nuance to the issue where Batman's dealing with, you know, not being happy because he's never happy, and trying to evaluate what is his happiness and if he should be more Bruce Wayne again, which I feel like the book Batman in general has not tackled in a long time, where he's like, okay, I should go back to being Bruce Wayne, and what does that mean for me? And then you get the big action moment of Tim Drake getting shot in the throat, and now we know Tim Drake's getting his own ongoing book, so he's not going to die, but how does he get out of this? And then there's a new villain introduced in the end. There's just so many different threads that build for a really interesting narrative where you're like, this feels like a new chapter. This feels like there's so many interesting plots to explore. So overall, I really enjoyed this one. I gave that 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. So what beat Batman this week was my number 1, Saga, issue 60. And this, again, speaking thematically, was so cohesive. And we get to see an opener where Marco's mother finds out that Marco has died, and she kind of has to keep it under her skin, or under whatever that saying is. But yeah, she has to keep it a secret, and we get to see that as the opener of like, how does a parent deal with the death of a child that shouldn't happen. And then we get to see through Hazel's eyes of saying, you know, I miss my dad, but I can't show it to my mom because she's going through so much, like I don't want to deal with it. And then by the end of the issue, their house burns down, and it's not that, oh, my belongings are gone, it's the memories of her dad. And you're just like, oh, it connected so well to get to that unbelievable cliffhanger. And then you also deal with the cliffhanger from last issue, where it's her brother, Squire, I think his name is, who has a crush on her, and she's like, yeah, I don't feel the same way, and this is why it's wrong. And there's just a really interesting conversation there, and the artwork is always so good. Even though this is more of a Talking Heads issue, it just works for this, and there's all the moving parts really bled in together very well. And yeah, just a really, really good emotional issue. So overall, giving that 4.5 stars, and that is number 1. But let me know in the comments below, what are your favorite books of the week? And we do the viewers pick of the week. I don't know if we had enough comments for last week, so be sure to let your voice be heard so you can be featured. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.